Hello, and welcome to Creative Curves, where we talk with creative individuals in various fields about their creative process. I'm your host, Blue Sirens. On today's episode, we welcome Tala Furniss. Tala Furniss is known online by her handle, Joifish. She is a digital and traditional artist based out of Chicago. She holds an AA in illustration as well as a BFA in game development. Tala specializes in 2D character and prop design and currently works as an in-house artist for mobile games, as well as a freelance illustrator. Listen in as we talk about how she has been inspired by her childhood through sketching. Hey, Tala, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks. Thanks for having me on today.
Of course. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you have probably got a lot going on. I honestly don't know where you have the time to post as much illustrations and sketches on social media that you do. And I feel like that's just a great way to start. Like, how did you start deciding that you wanted to post more of your artwork to social media? And like, how long does it take you to draw some of the sketches? Because they're very detailed and they look like this is a fully finished work of art, except for color. So I know, how long does it take to do that, and what made you decide you wanted to start sharing that online?
I think I started posting to social media when I was still in art school. I needed time to make my own personal stuff. And I knew that, when you're in school, like you're making work for a grade. So it's not necessarily stuff you want to make. So I knew that it was important for me to make time to create the kind of art that, you know, kind of cheesy, but makes my soul sing, like the stuff that I get really excited about. So once I finished my art degree and I was able to secure a job in the field that I studied, I got to a place where I felt like, I could focus more on, what exactly I want to make on my own time. I'm not making art for a grade or a paycheck. Like, what am I doing for myself now? And I think that's when I started hitting the sketchbook hard again. Like, I've actually haven't been using traditional media for several years. Like, I've been mainly focused on digital art because that's what I was going to school for. That's what I do for work. So going back to pencil and paper just took me back all the way to my childhood. And the sketches that I've been posting, like on Threads and Instagram, they take anywhere from, maybe 30 minutes to maybe a couple of hours, depending on what I have in mind. Sometimes I'll just, think about what I want to see on paper and I'll wing it as I go. Other times I'll think about it and plan it out more in my head before I take pencil to paper. Yeah, that's typically how long it takes.
I can't draw, but that sounds really fast to me, because the one, you're just a great artist. So if I were to try to draw something that you put out, like I know you drew something the other day, it's like just a pair of sneakers. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I even tried to draw a decent pair of sneakers. This is taking me like 3 or 4 hours to get to this level. So like, it's crazy that you're able to do it that fast and you're really consistent.
Thank you.
How do you like find the time and also like the inspiration? Because you shift every single day. It's like one of those things I look forward to, like what's going to get posted today, because
Yeah.
sometimes like it's sneakers. The other day I saw that you did like a female boxer that was really cool, and like the character that was drawn already seemed to have like a backstory behind it. So like, how, where do you get the inspiration to draw this stuff and to post it every day? How do you stay so consistent?
Well, in terms of like being able to do it quickly, that's something they really hammered into our heads in school, like especially since I was studying concept art for games. Like, working really fast is really important. It's an important skill to have if you're looking to get hired by a studio. You have to deal with crunch and short deadlines. So working quickly has been a skill I've developed over a few years. And finding the time, I guess, like, since I'm able to work quickly, finding the time has gotten a bit easier. And with coming up with ideas, like, it all comes from different sources of inspiration. Like, sometimes it'll be in artwork I see other people make, or it be in music that I listen to, or maybe a movie I watched, or a TV show, or photographs. color palettes, stuff like that. I think one of the important things about being a professional artist is being able to find inspiration in even the most seemingly mundane things, like being able to find beauty in everyday things, no matter where you are, where you go. So yeah, it's taken me a while to develop that skill. I think that with my job, I also have to be in a position where I can come up with a lot of ideas very quickly. I feel like creativity is kind of like a muscle. Like the
Yeah,
more you work it out, the stronger it'll get. And, sort of stuff just sort of flows out of you the more you do it. So that's what it feels like for me.
nice. Yeah, it sounds like you have a really big toolbox of different things you can pull from, not only for inspiration, but for the skills that you have of drawing different things. And you mentioned earlier, like you've been doing a lot of digital media, but lately you've been trying to go back to like your roots, doing the sketchbook, drawing things from your childhood. What's that
Yeah.
journey kind of been like to, I feel like we always work to kind of be where we are today and always maybe think, oh, we got to keep going forward and do something new and different. But what's it been
Yeah.
like to kind of revisit your childhood and see what you kind of can bring back to the pencil and paper aspect?
It's actually been surprisingly difficult because, I've been in art school for a really long time, longer than I'd care to admit. And I've been working professionally for several years. So, like, the main focus with school and work was, how can I succeed? Like, it was very binary to me. Like, you either fail or succeed in terms of the art that I make for a grade or a paycheck. But going back to my childhood, I feel like I'm trying to relearn how to enjoy the process more than the outcome. When I was a kid, I think this applies to a lot of people who used to make art when they were little. You don't really, you're not afraid to experiment. Like, you're not afraid of it turning out bad or people not liking it. It was just fun, like, cracking open fresh new markers and just scribbling all over a page. It was cathartic. It was play. And I'm trying to find the play in art again. And yeah, it's been surprisingly difficult since I feel like I've been, mentally programmed to view art through the lens of, is this technically good or not? So it's hard to go back to thinking in terms of, what makes me happy. Like, as simple as that sounds, like, I feel like I have to fight through a lot of my own mental restraints. So, like, coming up with ideas for work, like, it's still fun. I enjoy my job and I enjoyed working with different clients on stuff, but it was always, doing things the right way. And that was the same with school too. Like, you had to do things so that you could get a good grade or so that you could earn money. So going back to my roots with, just pencil and paper, I have memories of walking around the house with a stack of printer paper and pencils, and my mom would get so mad at me for just drawing on all the paper. But I feel like that's what I'm going back to now, and I think that it'll help put me in a better state of mind with my work going forward, not just personally but also professionally. Having a healthy relationship with my work is really important to me. And, now that my degree is done, I have a stable job at the moment. Now I can focus on what I really want. So, and, since I'm no longer worrying about bills getting paid or my degree not being done. So my priorities have definitely shifted since, finishing those milestones in my life.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's just take a moment and say, hey, congratulations on
Oh, thank you.
finishing art school. And, one less thing you can check off the list, one less thing that you can
Yeah.
say, hey, I don't have to worry about that as much anymore. But
Yeah.
I totally get that when we don't focus on like making art that we really like, I think the art that we actually do make ends up suffering. I
Yeah.
can think there was a period in time where I was really just trying to like write as many songs as possible. And it got to a point where I didn't necessarily care if they were good or not. I was just like, I need to release music consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know from like, there was like 3 songs I released in a row. And I was like, I don't even like those songs. I forget that I even released those songs. So there's a huge importance to making sure that when we are making art, if it's for, job, school, or ourselves that we do like it. And to a certain extent, we have those factors of, it's got to be for a grade, or this is for, someone else and they have their specifications for it. You
Right.
know, hopefully, like in an ideal world, all artists will be able to say, I can make something that I really like and I love, and I'm able to make a living off of it.
Yeah,
And not, they don't always mesh up that way, which is fine, and we can still learn lessons from those projects and from those arts. But
absolutely.
I'm really happy that you've been able to find an outlet in, the sketchbook and posting stuff on social media, because there are some really great pieces you've posted, and I think a lot of people have found you on social media through your work and are really excited to see what you're drawing and what you're going to come out with next. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if you have any ideas of what you want to work on next, and maybe what we could see in your sketchbook in the coming days.
So I definitely want to continue making art for the game industry. Like I said, I do enjoy my job, and it's a lot of fun designing things like characters and props and backgrounds and stuff like that. But I also want to be able to find my quote unquote artistic voice. I think, especially now, it's really important for me to grow personally as an artist, and not necessarily with getting more accolades with social media, or like making more money off of it, but more like finding out what it is I want to say and having the tools and the skills to be able to say those things. One of the biggest compliments I've gotten as an artist is probably from people who say they can see themselves in my work. That's always like a such an emotional rush for me when people can, find a piece of themselves in the things that I make. And that's what I want my art to keep doing for people. Like, I want it to enrich people's lives. I want them to feel seen, and I want them to feel heard and represented. I know growing up for me, like in a predominantly white community, I would get really excited when I saw other Filipinos in the media and entertainment I consumed. So for someone to say like, oh, I don't typically see people that look like me in illustrations or in these kinds of books or stuff like that. I want to give that back to them because I know what that feeling is like. And I think it's really important for people to see themselves in the stories and the entertainment they consume, so that they know that they do matter and that their stories matter and that people are inspired by them.
No, I mean, that's definitely like, anytime I think an artist, whether it's, it's through illustration or music or movies or whatever, but they want to be able to provide an audience with more representation, or be able to say, hey, look, like you can see yourself in these characters. 100% think that's like a very noble cause to do, and something we should be encouraging more. And it's definitely worthwhile when, you see younger kids be able to say, I can see myself in future roles that maybe they didn't see themselves in before, because
Yeah,
they saw
absolutely.
someone, yeah, like in a movie or in a comic book or an illustration, or they just see themselves in opportunities they maybe they didn't know they had before. So I think that's a very noble cause, and I can't wait to see how people can connect with your work more and see themselves in the work that you're creating, because it's, you have beautiful work.
Thank
It's
you.
always great being able to see it. It's one of the things I look forward to whenever I open up Instagram or Threads or whatever, to see, hey, what did you draw today? And it's great that people are really able to connect with your work and see themselves in it. So I hope we get to see more of that and hear more of that in the future. And I'm looking forward to staying connected with your creative journey. And for everyone that's listening, where can they stay connected, find your artwork on social media?
So I'm mainly active on Threads and Instagram. My handle on both of them is at Joifish. That's Joifish. And you can reach out to me there as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Tala, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time, and we can't wait to see what you come out with next.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Curves podcast. I hope you've been inspired by this episode to try something new in your own creative process. Follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Blue Sirens Music for weekly Creative Curves podcast episodes. Don't forget to check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening.